This video was brought to you by Verve. Head on over to verve.co/Gaijin to get a 30-day free trial of ad-free viewing of your favorite shows, both new and nostalgic. Hey everyone, Gaijin Goombah here, and welcome back to Yokai... Little G? What's this?
Rebranding.
Why?
Well, we're constantly being confused with the level 5 game of the same name, and our lawyers said it was probably a good idea to try and detach ourselves from it.
Okay then! Welcome back to Yokai Hunters, where Japanese monster media meet to learn the culture behind gaming and anime's coolest characters. Alright, so for like the past month, I've had people non-stop telling me I absolutely have to look into this new shonen anime series that's apparently been taking the internet by storm. Demon Slayer, or Kimetsu no Yaiba if you're one of those galaxy brain weebs like me. So okay, for those of you who have never seen the show before, during the Taisho period when Japan really started to modernize, a boy named Tanjiro Kamado lived with his family deep in the mountains selling charcoal, when one day after coming back from selling, he discovers that his entire family's been wiped out by Oni. Yeah, I know the subtitles say demon guys, but these creatures are called Oni by name. Trust me, this is important. Anyway, turns out that Nezuko, Tanjiro's little sister, wasn't dead, but instead was transforming into a vicious Oni herself, attacking her brother in a demonic rage. However, it's discovered that Nezuko, despite being an Oni, did not fully follow the dark side, displaying human thought, emotion, and even attempting to protect Tanjiro from a would-be assailant. Thus, Tanjiro joins up with the local Demon Slayer Corps while keeping a protective watch over the Oni-turned Nezuko in hopes of not only getting revenge for his family, but finding a cure for his sister. Now, despite my old man tendencies when it comes to anime, after catching up with the series over on Verve, I was actually legitimately impressed with Demon Slayer. Not just because this show has some of the most gorgeous choreographed fighting animation since, in my opinion, the Todoroki Deku tournament arc fight in My Hero Academia, freaking fight me on that, you know I'm right, but because of three very big things that made this series so special to me. For one, holy crap, the amount of culture I could ramble on about. And no, I don't just mean the limitless amount of demons and yokai that are featured in the series, cause dear god, could I do an entire miniseries on that? But everything from broad topics like the time period the story takes place in, to the smallest minute details like Tanjiro's earrings, this show is a goldmine of culture for me to analyze. For two, I just can't get over how, well, animated this anime is. Don't believe me? Just look for yourself. I ask you, how in the world could an anime convey dread and fear with someone wearing a pig mask? Let me tell you, they find a way. I've always believed that the one thing that anime can do better than any other film medium is personify the human condition. That is why I love anime. And Demon Slayer? Well, I think it really does capture expressive humanity more than most other shows this season. I mean, think what you want, that's just my opinion. But then, there is my muse for this episode of Yokai Hunters. Nezuko, the imouto turned Oni and likely the most humanly expressive character in this show, except for maybe Zenitsu. It's because of her, guys, that I think I get it. I think I finally understand anime's near weaponized power of kawaii. I mean, for the love of God, look at her! Look at this bean and tell me you can't love her! Since she can't really talk due to her condition, the show has to double down on her human expressions in action, not words. But Demon Slayer still knocks it out of the park!
Alright, buddy, put the body pillow down. Remember why we're talking about her in the first place.
Alright, so the term Oni gets kicked around in this anime more than random citizens and JoJo memes, and it really left me wondering, what actually is an Oni? Yeah, I know most people think the word Oni is interchangeable with the word demon. I mean, just look at the title. But it's never that simple. After all, it wasn't that long ago when we were summarizing all yokai as goblins, and we know that ain't right. So today, I want to have a good hard look at Nezuko, and by extension, all of the different Oni in this anime, and see if their origins really are on the money when it comes to the extensive folklore that they're supposedly based on. But before we can do that, we gotta look into what Oni actually are. Little G, if you'd be so kind.
Certainly. While they have undergone a lot of changes over the last millennia, Oni have had a decent amount of consistencies when it comes to their description. Traditionally speaking, Oni tend to be muscular, hulking humanoids nearly a dozen feet high, with skin colors ranging from red, to blue, to green, to yellow, to even black, with many of them also having one to several horns growing from their heads, and oftentimes wearing fundoshi loincloths made from tiger skins. This physiological trait, according to Michael Foster's The Book of Yokai, might actually come from the idea of where Oni originate from. To cite the text, as mentioned earlier, Oni commonly have ox horns on their heads and wear tiger pelt loincloths. These features suggest an association with the northeast direction known in Japanese as the Ushitora, or literally ox tiger, a direction linked with the Kimon or Oni Gate, basically the portal to which Oni invade from and retreat to the other world. And Oni aren't the dim-witted ogres a lot of people think that they are. In fact, a lot of them are accomplished sorcerers, with several local folk stories describing them as having abilities to create curses, hexes, and illusions. And some legendary Oni also had the magical ability to hulk up into hideous forms. Legendary Oni Shuten Doji was said to be the size of a buff human, but when night rolled around, he had the power to swell to 10 feet of bulk with a truly hideous disposition. Now, despite predominantly being presented as male, there are also female Oni as well, called Kijo, which means, well, female Oni. While they weren't nearly as strong as their male counterparts, Kijo made up for their lack of physical prowess by being exceptionally gifted with magics more potent than their male counterparts. But the one thing that was uniform to all Oni was their razor-sharp claws sprouting from their hands, 4 massive fangs that line their teeth, and their ravenous appetite for human flesh.
Now, I'm sure already you're seeing a lot of similarities between Demon Slayer's brand of Oni like Nezuko and traditional folklore Oni. Claws? Check. Fangs? Check. Ox horns? Check. Ravenous appetite for human flesh? Check. Ability to get swole? Ooh, that's a check. Superpowered Kijo magic? Oh yeah, that's a double check. But here's the kicker, gang. There's a lot of cool rules about Oni and Demon Slayer that absolutely do not mesh with Oni folklore. In fact, if we didn't know any better, based on the first couple of episodes, we'd think this shonen series was about vampires. I mean, think about it. In Demon Slayer, Oni spontaneously combust and evaporate in sunlight, right? So do vampires. They can also only be killed by decapitation from blades made from specific tamahagene steel, right? Well, if the Greek story of Ambrogio and Artemis is to be believed, so do vampires with blades of silver. Demon Slayer Oni are also warded away and even killed with a particular plant, Fuji no Hana. And vampires? While it isn't so much a flower as it is a vegetable, vampires are also warded away and even killed with a specific plant, garlic. Last but not least, in Demon Slayer, humans are transformed into Oni by being exposed to other Oni, whether it be a bite, a cut, or a transfer of blood. Guess what? So do vampires.
And honestly, that last one's kind of a big deal, because that which makes an Oni so horrible and terrifying is how they're made. Similarly to Demon Slayer, Oni folklore were, in fact, once human. But rather than being bitten or exposed to Oni blood, people in folklore turned into Oni because of their own evils. Case in point, let me go back to the legendary Oni I mentioned earlier, Shuten Doji. Once born a boy over 1,000 years ago in modern-day Shiga, he was blessed with both incredible physical power, but also impeccable wit. But rather than being loved for his gifts, he was shunned for being so abnormal, and he in turn shunned society, earning him the name Shuten Doji, or Little Drunkard. One night during a festival, Shuten donned an Oni mask and began pranking people by scaring them, only to later discover in horror that he had actually fused with the mask. Fleeing into the mountains, Shuten was corrupted physically to show what his heart had become, an Oni, now living on the edge of society, stealing and murdering, an inhuman monster on the periphery.
The same also goes for women. They didn't just become Kijo from blood, but rather their own negative, inhuman emotions. The Buddhist Setsuwa collection called Kankyo no Tomo, A Companion in Solitude, tells the story of a woman in Mino province who was completely neglected by her lover. Broken-hearted, she stopped eating altogether and withdrew into seclusion. That is until one day she took some millet jelly, tied up her hair in 5 knots, and used that jelly to spike her hair into what looked like horns. Then, after donning a red dress, ran out into the night. 30 years later, word spreads around that there was an Oni who was terrorizing locals and living in a nearby temple. When those villagers finally raided and set fire to the temple, they saw a humanoid creature with a tattered red dress and 5 horns protruding from its head. The Oni confessed that she murdered the man who neglected her, but lamented at the fact that she couldn't change back to her original form. Devastated by her actions and what she'd become, she leapt into the fire and died. See, this is the purest essence of what Oni are. While nowadays Oni as a concept have evolved into a very specific form, prior to modern times, Oni were more of a generalized concept. They were the personification of anti-humanity. As Michael Foster says in his book, quote, "As one scholar notes tersely, the Oni is a presence that excludes human nature, or Ningen-sei. Oni are constructs of anti-society and anti-moral." Unlike the rules of origination in Demon Slayer, Oni of folklore are humans that committed such horrible acts with such evil intentions that they were transformed inside and out. When they committed that evil, when they crossed that threshold, they lost their humanity and could never go back. They had given in to their negative emotions and were cursed with an existence absent of everything that makes them human. Mercy, kindness, empathy.
So is that to say that Demon Slayer's Oni, while similar in some concepts, are ultimately differentiated from what Oni actually are?
Actually, no, not at all. See, here's the beautiful thing, guys. This isn't what makes Demon Slayer's portrayal of Oni wrong. In fact, this concept of becoming Oni by losing one's humanity is exactly what makes Demon Slayer's Oni like Nezuko closer to the real thing than anything I've seen in popular media. Despite the fact that each Oni in Demon Slayer was created by another Oni, this theme of human threshold and the complete loss of humanity remains. The majority of Oni that Tanjiro and Nezuko fight revel in their grotesque actions, violence, murder, consuming human flesh, and their appearance reflects that. They have long abandoned their humanity in favor of a life devoted to immorality and evil, becoming the greatest threat to humankind. Just as every Oni of legend was created by a human whose actions were so corrupt and evil that their physical appearance reflected their twisted heart. But later on in the series, we're actually shown some of those thresholds. In the case of Kyogai, an Oni capable of warping space within his mansion using his Suzumi drums, we're shown that he wasn't just made into a violent Oni. When he was human, he had become a shut-in, much like Shuten Doji, and all he held dear was his Suzumi and his writing. But his threshold came when both his writing and playing came under exceptionally harsh ridicule from someone we can assume was very important to him, mocking Kyogai with nothing but contempt. And it was then when Kyogai turned, letting his hate-filled revenge push him to murder and transforming him fully into an Oni. And the same could also be said about the next big bad Oni of the series, Dewey, a boy originally born so frail that he was bedbound for the majority of his life. That is until he was given the power of an Oni from the series' main antagonist. But that wasn't his threshold of becoming a full-blown Oni. Dewey's final crossing was the murder of his parents and the literal cutting of his bonds with them, a severing of one of the most human concepts we have, family, only to remember upon his death that while his family tried to kill him for what he became, they too were ready to die with him so that they could always be together.
Wow, that's actually really tragic.
Exactly, and that's kind of the point. While a great number of Oni in folklore are born from pure malice, hatred, and dehumanization, a great many more of them are creatures of great tragedy. In the case of Shuten Doji, he became corrupted from the scorn and jealousy of everyone around him, while the woman of Mino became corrupted because of the abandonment of her lover and her broken heart. But no matter how much they lamented their actions, they had already crossed that line and could never go back. And such was also the case with Demon Slayer's Oni like Ryui and Kyogai. Kyogai was emotionally bullied for something that he loved, became a demon in his anger, and only when he found someone who actually complimented his talents did he start to show signs of humanity again. But it was too late. He was already an Oni, and had already given in to his inhuman actions. The same goes for Dewey. Upon his death, he realized his mistake and sought out nothing more than to apologize to his parents, and it's shown that maybe he did get a little bit of his humanity back, but it was too late, for he had given in to inhuman nature and was doomed to hell. But Nezuko is the greatest example of Oni and Demon Slayer precisely because, well, she really isn't one. Here's the thing. Nezuko never crossed that threshold. She never fully gave in to her inhuman desires, that is to consume human flesh, and by doing so, retained some of her humanity. That's kind of the point of her character. Time and time again, temptation and tribulation fell upon her, but each time she could have given in to inhuman actions of murder and consuming human flesh, she didn't. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, Nezuko shows some of the greatest amounts of humanity in her actions. Sure, most of the time it's played up for the cute factor, but other times her humanity and emotion shine through harder than any other character in this show. That's why in the beginning of this video I stress not only the sheer amount of folklore in this anime, but also the emphasis that it has on the human condition. because it's the human condition that not only defines Nezuko as a character, but is absolutely what defines an Oni. True Oni are the antithesis of humanity. They're the metaphorical symbols of everything that isn't Ningensei, human nature. They not only represent the greatest enemies to humans, i.e. eating human flesh, creating curses and diseases, and stealing from or slaughtering every human they find, but they're also personifications of inhuman actions and emotions: murder, theft, jealousy, violence, and rage. But little Nezuko never gave in to those emotions and actions that would have pushed her over the edge. Having never crossed that threshold, she was able to retain what humanity she had left, and now she actively punishes these Oni that personify inhumanity, just as the Oni of Jigoku punish the wicked souls that are sent there. So in a very real sense, the origins of Nezuko, her transformation into a partial Oni, her battle to retain her humanity, and her journey to slay the living embodiments of inhumanity is precisely why she's one of the greatest examples of true Oni I've ever seen in my life. It's not just the fangs, the claws, the horns, the magic, and the desire to eat humans, but rather the pure fundamental concept of what an Oni is, dating all the way back to the Heian period of 710. Her inspiration, heck, the inspiration of all of Kyohado Gotoge's Oni in this series, are so deeply rooted in the purest concept of what Oni are.
One thing still kinda bothers me though.
What's that?
Well, I can't help but think that a lot of these different Oni from Demon Slayer are other specific yokai. I mean, Nui's arachnid mom was just a bit too reminiscent of another spidery thought that we've seen before, while Yaiba seems just a bit too much like another eye-palmed yokai we know.
Well, that's kinda cause they are.
What?
Now, don't worry, I'm already working on another video to explain all of that. That is if you guys want to see it. But while I work on that, will you please, for the love of God, go see this anime? I promise you, next time there are going to be heaps of spoilers, so you're going to want to make sure that you're caught up to date with the show. And if you're looking to marathon this beast, you can't find a better place to watch it than Verve. For those of you that don't know, Verve is a streaming service that not only houses some of the newest anime, but also everything from classic cartoons from Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network to original series from folks like Rooster Teeth and Mordo. Available not just on PC, but also Xbox, PlayStation, and mobile devices. Heck, with Verve's premium service, you can even download videos to watch offline on said mobile devices. I've personally been using Verve for well over a year now to keep up with anime like Gegege no Kitaro, My Hero Academia, and yeah, even Demon Slayer. And I think you guys would enjoy it just as much as me. But if you want to find out for yourself, you guys can actually get a 30-day free trial of Verve's ad-free premium viewing service by going to verve.co/gaijin. So if you don't believe me, you can try for yourself. But either way, guys, thanks for watching. If you love learning about Japan and its culture as much as I do through your favorite games and anime, be sure to check out the rest of Yokai Hunters as well as Culture Shock and Witch Ninja right here on this channel. And don't let the algorithm screw you, be sure to turn on notifications as well. But until next time, everyone, this is Gaijin Goombah, signing out.